Hey guys, we are at E3, day number 2. Moss is here from GamersGather.com with Ben from Gen Game, and Colin and Ethan from Gamnesia. So we all got a chance to play everything Nintendo for the most part. So I'm going to jump right into it. First, the big Nintendo's main showing today, or this week, was Smash Brothers. Just some initial thoughts if you guys got to play. Colin, what did you think of Smash Bros?
It's basically what you expect of Smash Bros, but the new characters in the new stages are a lot of fun. And it's kind of hard to hear the music and in sound effects in the game because, you know, it's E3. You don't get headphones for the most part, and there's a lot of noise everywhere. But when you do get the chance to hear it, it is beautiful. Just as you know. Better than ever.
Did you try the 3DS version? Because they had stands with headphones for the...
Yeah, I did. The headphones weren't very good. Of course. But you see, us musicians are very uptight about this stuff.
Oh, I'm aware.
But yeah, it sounds fantastic, too. So.
Ethan, some initial thoughts on Smash Brothers?
I mean, Colin just kind of covered it all. I mean, it's
just the music was...
It's a Nintendo game. There's Nintendo characters. You beat each other up. It's Super Smash Brothers. It feels like Super Smash Brothers. You know, it just is Super Smash Brothers. It is. It's wonderful. But you know, Smash Brothers has been perfect for a long time, and you know they're making another Smash Brothers game. It looks better. There's new characters, and it's going to be fun, and everyone's going to buy it. It is.
I was glad that they sped up the gameplay a little bit. It's a little faster than Brawl. Not as fast as Melee, I would say, but it's I feel like it's a little tighter, a little faster, a little more competitive.
I don't know that I noticed that much, but I'm pretty used to Project M now, so that might be why.
I'm not a big Brawl or Melee guy or Smash at all. So is it, if you're familiar with Brawl, are you immediately familiar with...
Yeah, I would say so.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, do you think that's a good thing? Like, is it basically, does it feel like an updated roster with minor tweaks type game?
I think that's the kind of thing that we're going to have to play more than just a demo to find out because, you know, our instincts is to play Smash Brothers the way we know how to play Smash Brothers. But, you know, a fighter like this with, you know, I think, there's 40 characters now, 32, something like that?
30, I think 35 now confirmed. I'm expecting a total roster of around 40, 42 maybe.
So I think that, you know, to really get a feel for what's different about it, I think we actually have to have a full retail release because, you know, the minor nuance of, you know, what they have changed isn't going to show up until people have mastered the game, and you can't do that in just a demo.
Yeah. Colin mentioned 35 characters. Some of the new guys we got announced. We didn't get to play as all of them. But
which I'm surprised. I would think they would have them on the show floor right for the announcement. But
Pac-Man was announced. Game & Watch is a returning character.
Oh, that's not confirmed, but it's pretty much confirmed.
Then I don't even know how to pronounce this person's name. From Kid
Palutena.
Yeah. Who is this person?
If she's the goddess of light, she's not.
From Kid Icarus.
As far as Kid Icarus goes, she's the second most important character. But as far as Nintendo goes.
Okay.
She's not in the top 5,000, no.
Do you think
that... She's in the top 100, maybe.
And the other one, I personally liked it. The three different characters, the three Mii fighters. And it showed in the Nintendo video, it showed Reggie's Mii and Iwata's Mii, and they're like fighting each other.
That was the best part of the direct.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, the best part is the live-action fighting.
Yeah.
It seems like Nintendo's just kind of putting Mii's into everything right now.
Really, because they are.
Yeah, and, you know, it really answers a lot of, you know, there's a lot of outcry from fans who are like, we want Reggie, we want Iwata, we want Elijah Wood, I guess. I don't know if anybody's ever asked for Elijah Wood, but they showed that in the digital...
I really wanted Ice-T.
But, I mean, like, anybody who's ever wanted to put someone in Smash Brothers, they now can, because, you know, the Mii creation system is diverse enough that you can make somebody look exactly... who you want them to be. So,
or you could just make them exactly like yourself. Like, there's a lot of people that say, oh, you know, why can't you play as a female character in this game, or why can't I change my hair color? So I think adding Mii's to things, like, if you don't like them, fine, don't play as them, play as the standard characters. But there are a lot of people who do want more personality and more customization to their characters, and I think adding Mii's to things is a good way to please that crowd.
Were you surprised at all with the lineup, or, like, people that they have yet to announce, or... are disappointed with any of the people that they did announce? Ben?
I don't particularly care for Pac-Man, but it's not going to ruin my day that he was announced. There's people that are going to want to play as him. He's obviously a gaming icon, but he's not someone I would ever play as. I am surprised that we haven't seen announcements for some key characters like Captain Falcon.
Captain Falcon is Smash Bros.
Yeah, he's been in the game since the very first one. And Ganondorf is another one that we hadn't seen. And I thought maybe they were holding off Ganondorf's release because it could be somehow related to either Hyrule Warriors or Zelda U. Like, his character design could be based on one of those two games. But, for the most part, the E3 announcements have come and gone, and we still have no clue if Ganondorf's
I think they're holding... There's no way they would cut Ganondorf. He's the Triforce of Power. I think that they're holding off on him for the same reason as they held off on Bowser and Yoshi, in that he's getting a new moveset this time around.
I sure hope so, because...
I'm not predicting that. I'm not betting on that, but I'm guessing that's what they're waiting for. Ideally, I would like to see Black Shadow from F-Zero come in and take Ganondorf's old moveset off his hands, but I know that's not happening.
At the same time, I feel like with, people keep saying, where's Ness, where's Ness, where's Ness?
Yeah.
We can never assume anything when it comes to Nintendo, but I feel like Ness is such a mainstay in Smash Brothers that he's just going to be in there. And, the same with Captain Falcon. I feel like Nintendo feels they don't need to confirm that a mainstay of Smash Brothers is in the game. Ganondorf came in Melee, right?
Yeah.
So he may be a little bit more expendable in their eyes, but I feel like the people who are there in Smash 1 are going to be there forever.
I don't think it's so much about how many games they've been in as it is about what they represent of Nintendo's history, what their presence in Smash Bros. Says. For example, cutting Ness would mean essentially cutting Mother from the thing. And I know there's still Lucas, but that was a Japan-only release, and if they would cut Lucas before Ness is essentially what I'm saying, because they've promoted Earthbound with the Wii U lately. Cutting Ness from the roster is essentially cutting Mother from the roster. And Mother is an important part of Nintendo's fan community, and they wouldn't do that. Jigglypuff, on the other hand, has been in just as long as Ness, but cutting Jigglypuff, you're getting rid of one of the original 12, but Jigglypuff is no longer at all important to the
And we have a lot of other Pokemon in it.
Yeah.
There might be an overabundance of Pokemon at this point. It's probably more represented.
Well, now that they've
than
announced
Greninja,
Greninja, I think I don't want to say they've jumped the shark, but I don't think Greninja is a unique enough Pokemon
I'm
on
sorry.
its own.
Well,
I
you're
have
just
to
wrong.
disagree. I love Greninja.
I'm not talking about how he plays in Smash.
I'm
not talking about how he plays. I'm just talking about, if you look at all the Pokemon in the past, Pikachu, obviously. Pichu just because he was an easy clone and something to represent Generation 2. Jigglypuff because he was the second most popular Pokemon back in the early days, with the anime, when the anime actually made a difference. And Mewtwo was in Melee because he was the best they could do for a villain in the game. And because he's one of the most popular Pokemon. Lucario was in Brawl because he was essentially the mascot of Generation 4. He was the first Pokemon they revealed from Generation 4. He was the one who, got the movie and all the crazy promotion. So that's why he was in Brawl. And that's just not the case with Greninja. Greninja's the first...
When the starters were first announced, there was a lot of hype on gaming communities about how much everyone favored Froakie over the other starters.
Yeah, but he wasn't promoted by anyone.
Didn't really need to be if the fan community loved him.
I know what you're saying. I agree with you there, but I'm saying to Nintendo, Greninja doesn't represent the same sort of things that, say, Mewtwo or Pokemon Trainer represent.
But at the same time, maybe that's why he's in the game, because, the people who love Smash Brothers and Melee and Brawl and everything, we've been getting this fan service because, we're in our 20s and, 18 and whatnot, but I mean, we have, this classic experience with Nintendo. We grew up playing Nintendo, the, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, but, what about the 8-year-old kid whose first system might have been a Wii, it might be a Wii U, but, he's got a 3DS, and he's sitting there, he's like, well, I don't really know what a Mewtwo is. I don't know what...
Mewtwo is a central Pokemon in X and Y.
Yeah.
Mewtwo's the poster baby for Mega Evolution.
But, I mean, the point being, Greninja is bringing in the younger audience who are just starting to experience Nintendo, and they have a voice in this game now. Right. They may know who some of these characters are, but an 8-year-old kid who's playing Pokemon for the first time, he doesn't know how important Mewtwo is to all of us.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I just disagree with it.
I want to jump in and ask specifically about the 3DS version of the game, because Smash has historically and always been a console game, and in particular, the 3DS version. What did you guys think? How did it play? Do you think it holds up?
I think it plays great. I mean, really it does. Like, that was the first version of Smash that I played. I played both the Wii U version and the 3DS version, but the first time that I played Smash Brothers, one of the Nintendo girls just kind of walked up to me on the show floor and put a 3DS in my hand that was strapped to her, which is classic Nintendo. And, I mean, I played it, and it felt like Smash Brothers. It really did. It felt exactly like Smash Brothers is supposed to feel. So I don't feel like they're really losing anything by putting it on a handheld.
Completely agreed. I think it's going to be a little tougher to get used to the control scheme. It's a lot easier than I expected. Mm-hmm. And, the buttons do exactly what you'd think they would do. It's just that it's hard to get used to the four, four face buttons arranged.
Button memory a little bit in your head.
Exactly. Yeah. That said, it's weird to have L as grab for me because, I mean, I use my right finger to shield with R, but also to grab with Z because there's only one Z button on the GameCube controller. So I found instinctively that when I was trying to grab people in Smash 3DS, I was using the R button, and it would just go straight to shield, and I'm like, what's he doing?
Yeah,
that's not what I wanted to do.
And that didn't really make a lot of sense to me because you're releasing simultaneous versions. Smash Brothers 3DS is coming October. Smash Brothers on Wii U is coming out in November. Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense why they would literally just reverse buttons because a lot of people are going to.
I mean, I think that's part of. I think they're gonna redo that in development somewhere.
I would say I had similar little bit of difficulty adjusting to the way the 3DS feels in your hand versus like a controller. But the first time I played through the Smash Run mode, I was playing with Mega Man. And so I wasn't used to his control scheme at all, and I was playing a mode I wasn't used to at all. So I felt a little lost at first, but then I replayed it as Pikachu, and it felt pretty comfortable. So I still feel like, for the most part, it's pretty close to the full Smash experience.
So we could continue talking about Smash for a while, but
if I may, just one important point. I think this is because it's just in development, but I did notice only in one match. The rest of them were perfectly fine, but in one match I did notice some pretty significant frame rate drops. Which is... In the Smash Direct, they said it was running at a constant 60 FPS, and I think that's just a little bit of a bug because I only saw it in one match. But when I did see it, it really was very, I don't want to say uncomfortable because that has different connotations.
Well, hopefully though.
But it's jarring.
He'll iron out within the last few months. Yeah. So moving on, one of the other brand new games they announced was Splatoon. Third person team shooters paintball type game.
It's online too.
Online play.
It's everything you would not expect from Nintendo.
Some initial thoughts about it, Colin?
I think it's great. I got the chance to play one round of it for about 3-minute demo. I think.
Yeah, they're 3-minute rounds.
And I know Ethan's going to bring this up. It needs a reticle for aiming. It was a little difficult to aim both with the right joystick and with the Wii U motion sensor, the gamepad gyroscope. I think that's just a matter of smoothing out the input, though.
Maybe perhaps make it one or the other instead.
Well, no, it's an option. It's not they're not both active at the same time. So it is one or the other. You get the freedom to choose, which I think is fantastic. I just meant that neither of them feel particularly... they don't feel quite correct. They're close, but they're not this sort of Nintendo precision that I...
Yeah, and that's exactly why it sticks out, because Nintendo is known for its gameplay, and I really, really, really like Splatoon. It's exactly, like Colin said, you would never expect this from Nintendo. They're making an online third-person shooter, and it's Super Soaker shooting paint, and you're not shooting at each other. You're trying to cover the ground with paint.
And you're a squid.
Yes, and you can be a
you're
squid.
Half squid.
So, I mean, it's exactly the kind of third-person online shooter that Nintendo would make. But I have a lot of concerns.
That is the first and last time you'll ever hear that phrase.
But it's like, I have a lot of concerns for this game because Nintendo has never made a third-person shooter. And there's a lot of, when it comes to online shooters, people like their customization options. I'm wondering I play inverted. I'm one of like the 10% of gamers that like inverted control, and I'm wondering, does Nintendo know that I'm here? Does Nintendo know that I want to play with inverted controls, or are they just not going to include that? And like Colin brought up, the reticle needs to be there because I had a good idea. You're shooting giant globs of paint, so it's not like Call of Duty where you have this little like tiny precision thing that you're trying to aim at. But still, it's nice to know you just have a little like reference of where you're shooting these giant globs of paint. It has the potential to be incredible, as most Nintendo games are, and it's refreshing to see them actually announce a new IP.
Right.
But I just hope that they hear the shooter community or the people who are going to play this game. And
when they first announced it during the Direct this morning, I was very skeptical right away. I'm like, really? They're wasting 5 minutes on this? And then I played the game. Ben, did you have a similar feel? Like, what was your initial thoughts from the trailer?
I was a little skeptical from the trailer. Like, it looked like it kind of had that Nintendo charm, which made me hopeful. But it's a very bizarre concept, and it's an online shooter from Nintendo. So I was like, But I thought it was very enjoyable, and like these guys have said, it has a ton of potential, and it's all about the execution. It's all about they have to provide a good online experience with tight controls and plenty of options. But it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And it's definitely fun.
Yeah, I like. They only had one map, I believe, playable.
Yes, they did.
The same map. I can just see this being incredibly customizable with dozens of different maps and
absolutely. And I can imagine continued support for it for new downloadable maps for
DLC.
Yeah,
Nintendo?
Essentially. They did Pikmin. They're doing DLC right. They're doing Pikmin, Fire Emblem. They got some good stuff, and
right.
I think that model, which I like to think of as the correct way to do DLC, I think they can easily apply it to Splatoon.
Yeah, and just the reception to Splatoon was amazing because I saw it on the Direct. I'm like, okay, this is really cool, but I didn't expect it to be the most popular game at E3. You get on the show floor, and the line to play this game is longer than absolutely any other game
for Nintendo. At least,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the other long line, I think the only other long one, or one of them, was Hyrule Warriors, the new Zelda / Dynasty Warriors crossover. So on the show floor, I believe we got to play as just Link and Princess Zelda.
Yes.
But there's 9 different characters.
9.
They've confirmed 4 already, and I think they've. Do we know for sure there's 9, or did we? I believe we saw like 9 spaces
slots.
for characters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is the Dynasty Warriors, mantra of just providing just a ton of playable characters. So it's safe to assume that there's probably going to be quite a few.
Anyone want to take some guesses?
Well, they didn't announce Midna, and they also announced Impa.
Right.
I saw the Direct in the morning, and I loved Midna. Looked very interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of unfortunate that we didn't get to play as her. But I played it through as Zelda, and I have to say it was one of the more disappointing experiences I had from the Nintendo games.
Interesting.
It seemed like I was button mashing. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was like winning at it. I don't know if this was just the simplicity of it's an E3 trailer. I've never been a Dynasty Warrior fan, so I don't know. Ben, what are some of your thoughts?
I actually haven't played the demo yet. I was planning on doing that tomorrow morning, but yeah, from watching you, it seems pretty simplistic. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I hope there's a challenge to it, because I remember seeing you at one point. You were supposed to go to the other side of the map, and you literally just ran through like a herd of enemies without like attacking any of them, and none of them touched you. You just walked right through them, and that was just cool with them.
I did not even know I had a damage meter. I apparently had a heart meter somewhere. I don't know why I missed that, but like I don't know if I ever got hit.
And at the same time, isn't that kind of a staple of the hack and slash type genre? Because to get off Nintendo for a second, Dead Rising 3 on Xbox One is a lot like that. You can kill 500 enemies in 2 seconds, or you can just kind of plow through them. And to be fair, if you're putting several hundred enemies on screen at once, they can't be all that dangerous, or the game would be impossible. But I definitely get what you were saying about how it's a little disappointing, but mainly because we expect so much of Zelda. But you know, the way that I've always described Hyrule Warriors, this is the most mediocre game that I'm going to play 5 times.
Yeah.
And, you know, just being a Nintendo fan, you know, I love Zelda. And, you know, the second they stuck a Zelda skin on Dynasty Warriors, I was immediately sold.
Right, and I think that is the way to look at it, is that it's a Zelda skin on Dynasty Warriors, whereas a lot of people are thinking of it as a Zelda game that plays like Dynasty Warriors. But no, it's a Dynasty Warriors game.
The way that Nintendo keeps describing it as it is a celebration of the Zelda series. That's the phrase they kept using. So we'll see. To me, they have to do a little more before I'm going to get it. I'm going to play it 5 times, even though it's mediocre. But
only 5
in the first month.
First day.
I'd like to see a little more. I think we still need to see more.
To say something positive about it, though, I mean, the controls felt solid. You know, it felt good. I was having some fun while playing it, and
it looks pretty good too.
Yeah, and they've definitely, you know, they've injected a lot of Zelda into it. I
liked Captain Goron.
Yes, and there's a potential for a playable character as well.
Yeah, I was thinking that actually.
But I mean, they've injected a lot of Zelda into this. I mean, just how you acquire items. You'll find a treasure chest. It'll make the classic Zelda, you know, tune when you open the chest. And you know, they're the people that are making it are, you know, keeping true to the Dynasty Warriors, you know, games. But you know, they're definitely making it feel like Zelda, which is nice.
So for Zelda fans, as much as Hyrule Warriors was it was playable. There was another little...
As much as it was playable.
Yes, of course. There was a little other Zelda title that was revealed during the conference this morning, or not the lack of conference this morning. Zelda Wii U.
That's not important.
Yeah. Unfortunately, nothing playable, and we got all of, I don't know, a 1-minute video or so. So... Colin, just your initial thoughts from where...
It is literally exactly what I wanted from Nintendo and what I was deathly afraid for about 3 years they would not do.
And the graphical style? Or?
The graphical style, the open world, literally everything is exactly what and this, you know, I can't talk about it in depth because I would get off on a 20-minute tangent. But I have this whole idea of what I think Zelda really needs to be to capture fans' imaginations, as it did in, you know, sort of the golden days, where it was selling more than like 5% of its consoles install base, a la Skyward Sword, and I was deathly afraid that they would keep going down the route of a little bit more isolation with every title and a little bit more. Sort of the disjointedness that we felt in some of the more recent games, and they threw away all of that and made it exactly what I wanted. And it's exactly, you know, it's got this element of Disney, it's got this element of fantasy, it's got exactly everything I think that captured gamers' imaginations.
All that in 40 seconds.
In 40 seconds.
Well,
what
they officially announced,
86 and 98, and you know, all the great Zelda years.
What they've officially announced, I believe at this point, they said it's a fairly open world where there's things in the distance that they're not just backgrounds. You can actually go there. I think that was one of the big things they were harkening about. And then it seemed we saw some sort of technology involvement too. We had this weird little laser.
Yeah, the whole thing felt very like Avatar-esque. Like everything was glowing blue. But no, I mean, like there was some weird stuff going on. Even that monster that was chasing Link,
like the Doc Ock arms coming in.
Yeah, but like they were shooting weird like exploding lasers.
It was a weird
stuff.
Combination of like a Beamos, a P-hat, one of those Lanayru desert robots, and Doc Ock. I mean, that's we've never seen anything like that before. And
it's everything we never knew we wanted.
Yes. But
I mean, it was absolutely it was a wonderful trailer. I mean, just when Eiji Aonuma just snapped his fingers and he's like, we're not just going to show you a trailer. This is the entire game world. Yeah. This is what you're going to be exploring. And I don't think that's ever really happened in a Zelda game before. I thought it was
concept art when they first superimposed.
And then all of a sudden you look and you're like, the grass is moving. The individual blades of grass are moving.
The trees were swaying in the wind, and
there was mist like beautiful coming up over the horizon.
In the distance. Everything was reactive, and that's that's really, really magical.
But it's like, this is kind of something that, I don't want to say that we expected this, but, you know...
I was deathly afraid for 3 years that wouldn't happen.
But, the creative director of Zelda mentioned it, retracted it very quickly, but how much he liked the openness of something like Skyrim.
Yeah.
And how he liked that you could go absolutely anywhere. Like, when you saw a mountain in the distance, you could go find that. And then, of course, he retracted it because, as an employee of Nintendo, you can't go around praising other people's games. But, it's nice to see that, he still got to act on those desires.
Yeah.
He's... That's kind of, that's how I described it when I texted my girlfriend. I'm like, Zelda went Skyrim. Zelda went Skyrim. You get to go everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's everything I've always wanted from a Zelda game. And you could kind of do that in the earlier 3D ones, like, Ocarina of Time, when you saw Death Mountain in the distance, you eventually got to go there.
Yeah.
And they've become, and as Colin was saying, they've become more and more confined. And I remember the first time I played Skyward Sword, when I went down to the surface, and I got to that first temple, and I just saw that gate. And I just looked out into the distance, like, I get to go there later, right? And no, I mean, it was just this very, very confined world. And, that's something that the Zelda fans were very vocal about after Skyward Sword. And, it's clear that Nintendo heard us.
Yeah,
So
exploration's always been a big part of the Zelda experience for me. So I just like having, hubs of environments. I like having a big environment, with different areas. So the hub system from Skyward Sword, wasn't a fan of it. And this is... Like you said, this is exactly what I was hoping for in terms of an overworld. And more so, just the trailer in general, it provided us with the graphical style, which I was pleased with. I've always said Skyward Sword, the graphics wasn't the problem, it was the hardware. If you can use that kind of graphics engine, but improve on it and run it on better hardware, it would be beautiful.
I think this is actually closer to Ocarina of Time than Skyward Sword. I know that it has a bit of the watercolor
I could
visual, but...
It's less impressionist
the color,
than Skyward Sword.
The color palette and the character models, and the shading too. Actually, the lighting is quite different than Skyward Sword, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It looked to me like a progression of the Skyward Sword, which I like the Skyward Sword. The look.
It looked to me like Skyward Sword combined with Ocarina of Time, and also just a lot better.
The trailer it hit on a few key points. It showed off graphical style, which for the majority, I think most Zelda fans found it to be beautiful. We've seen a few people complaining, but they're wrong. And it showed us that there was going to be an open overworld, no more of this segmented hub stuff. It gave us some action, and then it left us with some questions. It gave us some intrigue. What's with this technology stuff?
What's with the Gerudo band on the arm of the character that's in the trailer?
Yeah.
And then,
Link or not.
Yeah, Link or not, and a lot of people have been very vocal about that because, I guess, with a trailer that wonderful, people have to find something to complain about.
Oh, it's Zelda fans.
But, at the same time, I understand where they're coming from because you have this beautiful, pseudo-realistic looking world, and all of a sudden Link shows up, or not Link, someone who looks kind of like Link's younger brother named
It's the first Zelda trailer that's ever been missing the green cap and tunic.
The missing Link?
Yeah, but
Oh, boy.
But it's like, I understand why people are vocal about that, because, you have this beautiful game world, and Link shows up, and, he looks good, but he looks like a plastic toy. He looks like an amiibo. He looks like an amiibo character.
Yeah.
And, it looks fantastic, but, it was a little jarring at first, but it looks wonderful.
But, so a perfect segue. You just talked about the amiibos. That is one of the new things that Nintendo also announced. It's basically their Skylanders. They're, in a sense, they're little figurines.
They're Skylanders that work with a bunch of different games.
Yeah. We don't really have all the details. Just some initial thoughts, Ethan, on the idea of the amiibos?
They did exactly what I didn't want them to do. And I wrote about that in our roundtable before E3. What I didn't want to see is them bring in these figurines and say you can use these kind of haphazardly with existing games that you already know about. And they should. You can do this with Smash Brothers. You can touch your character and summon Mario after you've died or something. And, as a Nintendo fan, I want a reason to buy all these. I don't really like the idea of spending $300 on a series of characters, but if I'm going to do it, I want like a full retail release. I want something that like centers around these characters, because I don't want to buy a Link figurine for $15 or however much they cost and just tap it onto my controller while I'm playing Smash Brothers and that's it. Like, I want them to do something with these. If they really want to sell these, if they really want to turn this into like a new, pillar of their business model, they need to give us a reason to buy these characters, and just, side elements in existing franchises that we're already going to buy. I don't think that's a reason to spend a couple $100 on a bunch of these, amiibos.
It's actually a good segue into what I think about the amiibos. Is I think that they haven't formally announced what they're actually doing with them yet. I think right off the bat, I think officially licensed little figurines like that is a great idea, especially for someone with a character library like Nintendo. But I think that I have a feeling that what they will be doing, and this is what I think they should be doing, just from a gamer and business standpoint, is to release amiibo sort of like DLC that you buy in a physical store. Where you say, for example, you get a Mario figurine, and in Smash Bros. You tap it to the gamepad. Not that he comes back to life after you've died or something like that, but what it does is it downloads new data to the game. You get, for example, a Dr. Mario alternate character skin. You get a new Super Mario stage. You get a couple of new songs for Mario that other games would release as DLC. Because it was developed after the game released, whatever expansions they want to release, but they just release it on physical media. And I think that that is a really great way to encourage people to buy the figurines and to encourage people to buy the extra content. It's a great cross-promotion, I think. So,
I think, like you said, Nintendo has such a rich library of characters and things, so there's lots of potential for what they can do this. I'm worried that Nintendo has a history of coming up with ideas that sound great and then just not really ever acting on them.
Nintendo TV!
not really bringing them to life in the way that, they made you think they might be able to. And for me, there's a lot of different things they can do with them. I thought you guys both had some great ideas, but one big thing that just jumps out to me, obviously, is Pokemon.
They already did NFC for Pokemon Rumble.
Yeah,
and
but that was very half-baked.
I completely agree.
Small, not very good-looking little characters.
Don't worry about it. I was
and GameStop
exclusive. Finish your.
I think the Wii U could use. I mean, obviously they're not going to put like Generation 7 on the Wii U or anything like that. They've already said their main series Pokemon games are staying on handhelds, but they could do a significantly impressive AAA Pokemon game that would actually take advantage of these things, and it would be both interesting and fun as well as profitable because there's a huge selling power in Pokemon.
Yeah. This is where I think Pokken Fighters comes in. This name that they've trademarked in all different every region, I think now, and it's obviously what it is it's an actual version of the game. Remember in the Pokemon retrospective when they announced. It was a trailer, I think, for X and Y. Yeah. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was a promo thing. At the end of it, they had a Wii U, just a very brief glimpse at Lucario standing across from a Mega Blaziken. And they were both clearly in a fighting stance.
There was the fighting symbol in the background.
Exactly. And then they trademarked this name, Pokken Fighters. Clearly sounds like Tekken, and Tekken comes from a Japanese word, I think, which just means to fight. So clearly that's a real thing. And I think what they might do in that vein is release new Pokken Fighters characters as NFC figures.
And that would be a good start.
Yeah.
I personally will buy these things and probably will never use them.
Yeah, same.
Just need to get the set. But a few of the other announcements they had, a lot of their classic characters have received upgrades or new games. Right away, I guess more like rapid fire, some thoughts. There's a new Yoshi. Ben, we heard about this last year.
I think it was 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, Yarn Yoshi.
Just February of 2013.
Right, yeah. At the first Nintendo Direct, I believe.
It was very cute. It was relatively fun. I thought they did some clever things with the multiplayer. But overall, it was just another Yoshi's Island game, but cuter. And for those people that love that series, that's fantastic for them. But I think I've kind of outgrown the Yoshi's Island style. I would need something different to captivate me.
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as Ben. I like the yarn feeling. As Ethan said, it's the most photorealistic game I've ever seen, which you wouldn't expect from a dinosaur made of wool, but it is. They have these little frays off of the characters and off of the environments, and it's because it has this aesthetic where it's made of real-world material. It's a lot easier to make these sort of environments look real because they're made of yarn. So you just have to imagine something in real. It's a lot less. There's less of a barrier for the imagination, I think, and in that way, I think it is extremely appealing to look at. It's like Little Big Planet, but with Yoshi instead, and more detailed. Strangely enough, but yeah, I'm with Ben in that it is another Yoshi game. It's adorable. The way they dance at the end, my heart melts every time.
Yeah.
But it's another Yoshi game. I'll love it, but I won't. That won't be because of gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, it feels with the Wii and the Wii U, there is no shortage of classic Nintendo 2D platformers, and the comparisons to Yoshi's Island are valid, but I think it feels a little bit more like Yoshi's Story, which is a game that a lot of people have forgotten about, mainly because it was one of the few just kind of genuinely mediocre games that Nintendo has ever released. That being said, it's Yoshi's Woolly World. I think it's going to be wonderful. I mean, just having the two-player co-op, there's lasting power in that. And, the Yoshi name sells a lot. It doesn't sell Mario and Zelda levels of, amounts of software, but people are going to buy this game.
I'd say people who have a Wii U might be interested. Nobody is buying a Wii U to get this game.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it has the same. I think people who liked Kirby's Epic Yarn are going to like this.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, but it's made by the same people. It's got the same aesthetic, and Kirby's Epic Yarn was very different gameplay-wise than the main Kirby series, but still, the main draw of it was that it was made of yarn. It was cutesy. And I really feel like this is more of a sequel to Kirby's Epic Yarn than it is to Yoshi's Island, even though it plays exactly like Yoshi's Island.
Although this isn't a sequel to Kirby's Epic Yarn because we have a new Kirby game as well.
Well,
see that try?
Yeah,
I meant segue attempt fail.
Stretch.
I actually haven't played the Kirby. Has anybody get to play it on the show?
It's Kirby's Canvas Curse made of clay. Those who played Kirby's Canvas Curse on the DS, it's basically the same game. It looks really great on the Wii U, but it's exactly what you'd expect from Kirby's Canvas Curse 2. I don't really have a lot to say about it.
Yeah. It's perfectly fine. It's an absolutely perfectly fine game for people who like Kirby. It's exactly what you want out of a Kirby game. It's
out of a Canvas Curse game.
Yeah, and it takes advantage of the gamepad in honestly the most obvious of ways that you can possibly think, and it's perfectly fine. It's absolutely perfectly fine.
It's not that exciting. It's just it's perfectly fine.
It's honestly it's Nintendo saying here you have a gamepad. All of what people have been saying is why do I have this gamepad? And this is just another title of the few that they've shown off. Like here's why you have a gamepad. This is why you can do this on the gamepad, and why this this is only fun with a touchscreen. This would not be fun with an Xbox controller. A Wii U Pro controller.
It wouldn't be possible with an Xbox controller.
Ben, did you have a chance to play?
No, actually, I haven't played that one yet. Yeah. I've never been a huge Kirby player. Like they're okay, they're enjoyable, but it's just not a game I feel like I have to rush out and get the new Kirby. So,
to me, it seems they just like Kirby. I think Epic Yarn came out 2010.
I think
so.
The next year, Return to Dreamland came out in 11, and then basically
Triple Deluxe was this year.
It was about 2 years. Triple Deluxe came out, and now, it's almost like there was no Kirby for a while, and now we're getting a lot of Kirby. And I think it's much like what I said about Yoshi, where
and there was Kirby Massive Pack in 2012 or something like that, too.
Yeah, there's been a huge influx of Kirby.
I think it's because Nintendo feels that Kirby appeals to the younger gamers, and they're trying to get the younger crowd to adapt the 3DS and Wii U.
So some of the other games that they announced, one game that I absolutely adored, Ben, go ahead. You can
Captain
announce.
Toad.
Captain Toad.
Captain Toad is great.
Captain Toad is so awesome. I will admit, and I'm going to bring this up in my impressions piece, when they announced Captain Toad, I literally rolled my eyes. I just went, it looked perfectly fun. Captain Toad was a fun little distraction during Mario 3D World when I didn't, want to just jump around in a platformer world. But, I was like, okay, this is cool. It's going to be fun. And then I played the game. And it turned...
And your whole world changed.
It did. It turned from, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, E3 afterthought, into Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, my favorite game at E3. Hands down, by far.
That's high praise.
The Dragon Boss in that level where, you're hiding behind, blockades, Gears of War style, and avoiding, like, an influx of fire and trying to, like, sneak your way up the mountain to get the star. Like, it was tense, man. Like,
Gears of War Toad.
Just picture Toad with the chainsaw.
Gears of Toad.
Yeah, the Lancer.
But no, I mean, it's wonderful. I hope this is a full retail release, specifically so there will be more and more, like a full game's worth
600 levels.
Exactly. Like, I want 600 Captain Toad levels. It's just so wonderful. Everything about it is awesome.
And more than just like, being fun and cute and adorable, like there was some clever level design. Just in the it's an E3 demo, so they're not going to throw anything crazy at you, but just in the 4 short, simple levels they gave us, there was some clever and interesting puzzle solving elements.
Yeah. My favorite of which was the nod to the fake Mario Brothers game, Mario Brothers 2, which was Mario characters, put into a Japanese game.
Doki Doki.
Yes, and they gave a nod to that because obviously Toad can't jump or attack, and they gave you onions in one of the levels that I played, and you could throw them at enemies to kill them, Doki Doki Mario 2 style, and I'm like, oh, Nintendo, you clever bastards.
Well, to be fair, the turnips have kind of become more of a Mario thing than Doki Doki. Everything in there. I mean, Shy Guy's a Mario character. Birdo is a Mario character.
Your thoughts on the game?
I mean, I think they summed it up nicely. I'm not quite as enthusiastic as Ethan, but I did really like it.
Yeah.
I did really like it. Toad's adorable. He's always been my favorite Mario character, and I'm just really excited that Captain Toad is a thing now.
Yeah.
And not just, a one-off
Super
Mario 3D World side thing.
So other announcements, Mario Party 10 was playable, wasn't in their video to start the day. I think they only had 4 levels, but they were all the new thing is it's 5-player mode.
Asymmetrical gameplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a blast with it.
Yeah. Me too. It was really great. It was exactly the kind of thing that I love to see with the gamepad and the 5-player, asymmetrical idea. I worry though that for the final release, and I don't think I'm alone in believing that Mario Party has been on a steady decline ever since Nintendo 64. But I think if they design a lot more of the mini-games in Mario Party 10 around the idea of asymmetrical gameplay, then I think it could be a really, really fantastic title. I worry though that it's going to be limited more to about, not 4, but 10 or 15 mini games out of 80.
Yeah.
So see, I'm the same. The more of these like Bowser type games they put in, where one guy has the controller, the better. Because to me, Mario Party has always been about one thing and one thing only, and that is ruining friendships. Yeah. And there is no better way to do that than being Bowser and using the gamepad to just screw everyone up.
I think there's also I think there's also a lot of potential, not just in Bowser, but in having other characters. In that role, but doing other themes, not all about fire and lava, but, you could have Wario doing stuff about farting on people, I don't know.
Whatever Wario does these days.
Making video games or hunting treasure, something.
To me, this is the first Mario Party game since Part 2, maybe, that I'm actually legitimately interested.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, good job, Nintendo, revitalizing something.
It feels like they're actually trying. And that's something that I have not felt in Mario Party since, like, the GameCube days, or maybe even the N64 days.
Yeah,
and, like, even... as much as I don't want to praise Mario Party graphics, like, it looks very good. And, that's not something you've been able to say about Mario Party, like, honestly, maybe even ever. But, like, it looks really sharp, and, like, it's just, all of those little things that you're just like, they're actually trying on this game. And that's really refreshing to see, because, with this gamepad and with all the different control options on the Wii U, this has the potential to be one of the absolute best Wii U games.
Oh yeah.
In the same way, I felt like the Mario Party games could have been some of the best Wii games, and they weren't.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of potential here.
I'm actually a little excited that we haven't actually had a Mario Party with the Motion Plus control either.
Yes.
Even the Mario
Party.
Party. Yeah. Even the last
9.
Yeah, it was not a Motion Plus game. It was just a regular Wiimote. So maybe they can do stuff with more precision. But just a few other games. Did anybody get a chance to play Mario and Bowser?
Mario and Donkey Kong?
Mario and... Yes! Mario, Donkey Kong's inside story.
So what, he's a journalist now? This is supposed to be our story, not his.
It's like a puzzle game with the gamepad. I mean,
it's more Mario versus Donkey Kong. I kind of got tired of that whole concept earlier on in the series. It's enjoyable. If you're someone who hasn't played Mario vs. Donkey Kong before, I would certainly I would certainly recommend it. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
Like 25 minutes, they're beating all 8 levels.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a lot of fun. It's just, if you've seen it before, you've seen it before.
Yeah.
In this one, you use the gamepad to stretch new girders out to guide the minis across spikes, or there are giant Donkey Kong toys that throw you up in the air. Yeah. And that's all pretty neat.
I imagine these levels could get very in-depth.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I'm eager to see, but I only got to see World 1 or so, so it was pretty simplistic, not very exciting. Yeah. And it's just the sort of thing that I'm glad exists, but I can't personally be very invested in it. Yeah. I just,
So the last thing I want to, there's a few games that like Sonic Boom was shown off and Bayonetta 2 was shown off, but one of the other, I guess, bigger things, it's not full games yet, but it was the Miyamoto games. They revealed that Star Fox was coming. We don't really know much about it yet, but on display was Project Giant Robot and Project Guard. Did anybody get a chance to play?
I played Project Giant Robot, and I liked the concept, but I don't feel like it really is that great in execution. You build this robot with your gamepad. Like you can use custom parts. Select what kind of head you want him to have, what kind of arms. Then you can change his height and his width, things like that. Stretch him out, make him shorter, make him taller, make his arms bigger. And then you use it's asymmetric gameplay. You look at the screen to see
it's not multiplayer. It's not asymmetric.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, it's two screens.
It's the motion. Yeah, it's
you have a different look on your gamepad than what you have on the TV. And so on the TV, you're just seeing the city as you fight these other giant robots. And on the gamepad, you are seeing in first person from the viewpoint of the robot, and you just try to punch him down or shoot him with lasers. And it's an interesting idea, but I didn't really feel like it was all that fun in practice. Yeah. It just kind of seemed like, hey guys, we're using the gamepad. See, you said you wanted us to, but I don't really feel like it was actually particularly practical or useful. It just kind of felt like you were being forced to use the gamepad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of mirror Ben's statements. I personally had a lot of fun with it. I think it would be better if it were a little bit faster. But what I found was the biggest roadblock, I think, in turning this into a real game as opposed to just a tech demo on the show floor is making some sort of actual goal to it. I think one of the biggest problems I found with Nintendo in recent years is in games like Game & Wario and I suppose you can even say it about like Pushmo and stuff like that, which, I mean, I think they're good games. I think Pushmo's a great game. But Nintendo Land even, these things don't quite captivate me in that they're very one and done, and there's really no stakes to not completing them. And they're basically go as far as you want to, and as soon as you get bored, you can stop playing.
Right.
I think if they can make some sort of way to get a single-player mode in there, basically they can't make a game that is this gimmick. Yeah. This gimmick needs to be implemented into a game.
I guess they were just using it as Miyamoto was testing this to see what it is. It's called Project Giant Robot. That's not the final name.
It seems like something that could be used in maybe like a Nintendo Land 2. Yeah. But I think they are making it an actual game, and I think that if they do that, they're really
not the best.
They're really selling. They're really selling the idea short.
Yeah. Did anybody get to play Project Guard?
I did. Did you?
No, not yet. I was going to try it tomorrow.
It's a lot of fun. I really
that
like
one looked a lot better.
The same, yeah. The same is true in that, unless they can tie it in to a fuller game, I can imagine it getting tiring quickly. But the really nice thing about it is, and they didn't show this on the floor, but they explained in the treehouse, you can customize robots' attack patterns and invasion patterns. And I don't know if you can customize the home bases, but you can share the levels that you have created either by customizing the robots or the bases. Again, I don't know about the bases, but you get my point.
So user-generated content?
Essentially. And it's not entirely user-generated, but it is user-generated enough that you can share it with your friends locally, or I believe they mentioned an online sharing system. So it has a lot more opportunity for fresh experiences, I think, than Project Giant Robot does. But it also has the same roadblock. Actually, one of the nicer things about Project Guard is that the customization in it is different from Project Giant Robot in that it's essentially a tower defense game rather than an action game. So when you customize the camera positions and the camera angles and everything, you're essentially customizing your line of defense, and it's very strategic. Whereas
it's a deeper experience.
It's a much deeper experience, and it's a mechanic that's equally simple, but as Ben said, it's a much deeper experience. Project Robot is really more, I think, about that customization is about gameplay style than strategy.
Yes. I'm going to make a very bold statement about these two Project games. I think these are going to be the kind of Nintendo games that never see the light of day.
That very well could be.
I don't think these games are ever going to come out. I think, they were very easy to put together from a development standpoint. And I think right now, with the Wii U in the state that it's in, despite that, Mario Kart is helping and Smash Brothers is going to help, I think right now they're testing to see what people like about the gamepad, because as much as I love Nintendo, I don't think they understand what people like about the gamepad.
I don't think anyone understands what anyone likes about the gamepad.
I think that, because the first couple of years of the Wii U has shown that. And then everyone's asking, why am I using this, 3-hour hulking controller to play, Mario 3D World, and it's just, mirroring, what's on my TV. So right now, I think, they're trying to test out and see, what works, what captivates people with this gamepad, and I think that's what those games are for. And I
still think they need to cut the gamepad from the standard bundle and sell it as a separate peripheral.
You too?
Yeah.
I actually disagree.
That's marketed as, essentially a streaming controller for all the purposes that they were marketing it as in the beginning. With the OS TV Play, and your dad can watch football while your kid plays Mario, and all that stuff. I think is a really great selling point that they're not promoting well enough. But what
they did, they did showcase a wide variety of games. We touched on just about all of them at this point. But that's pretty much going to do it for part one. We're going to this one a little longer, so I'm going to break it up a little bit. But we'll take a little break and we'll talk about some of the disappointments, what was missing, and what we think about Nintendo throughout. Now we know much of their lineup for this year and our final grade. So we'll check us out for part two.